Right, hello. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, whoever else might be listening, to the 60th episode of the Post Concussion Syndrome podcast. And today we're blessed to have David Brimacombe from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada, to come to talk to us. And he's been very generous with his time about his vision, inspiration, and mission um, based on where he's been in his journey of recovery from post-concussion syndrome himself over the last 22 years, but also to bring this to other people as a former current physical education instructor as well. He's got a lot of knowledge on the sports side of things. So I'll stop waffling and let's crack on. How are you doing, David?
Great, David. I feel an honor to be the 60th on the 60th episode and be the first DB on the DB show. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, two David B's at the same time. It's too much for most people to take, probably. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, 60s. We'll probably keep going, like I say, maybe one a month or so on. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody in the post-concussion syndrome awareness groups. If I'll post the links later on, we'll also post David's social media links and things so you can contact him if you want to get in touch with him because he's an interesting chap and I'm looking forward to this. So, first of all, David, would you mind? I'll stop waffling. Would you mind telling the people at home a little bit about yourself, your background, and how your injuries occurred, and so on, please?
For sure, for sure. So my post-concussion recovery history started about 22 years ago with a pretty significant motor vehicle accident. Shortly thereafter, I was playing university basketball and I suffered another significant concussion where I was going up for a layup, had the legs taken out, and I landed head first. Was knocked unconscious for a few minutes, came back and started throwing up, and I probably that was probably day one of my PCS journey. The problem being with this time is anyone who's had a concussion for a significant amount of time would know is that there wasn't a lot of support and help. And so at that point, my coach told me that no blood, no foul. He wanted me to play. So I actually played shortly thereafter, suffered another concussion. And for about 2 years thereafter, I was a zombie. So that was really the first phase one, I'd say, of my PCS recovery. I suffered three or four more since. I'm a phys ed teacher, and the crazy thing about teaching phys ed, you have adolescents who have no body control, especially we're talking younger adolescents, so 12, 13, 14, middle school kids. And so the things that they do and balls and objects flying in the air, it's as someone who's 6'6", I'm basically a target for objects to be thrown at my head. So I've had actually three or four more concussions, a frozen football to the temple. I've had someone drop a weight plate on my head in the fitness center. So again, my journey's been interesting. I love working with kids. I just don't love getting hit in the head with flying objects. So it's been a long journey. The culminating point was in 2017, as I alluded to, that last hit to the head with the football. We're outside in Canada, which, if you don't know, is freezing cold in the fall. So about 0 degrees, but we like to brave it out. We're tough Canadians. So we were outside playing football, and this boy the only boy in the class with a mustache, and he could probably bench press more than I could, launched the rifle of a ball in my temple, hit me right in the side of the head, knocked out. I woke up to see a bunch of kids looking at you, wondering what had just happened. So then I got up and kind of went about my day, but I knew from that point on that it was going to have to be my mission to try to really figure out what was causing all these problems. Because at that point forward, I had unresolved issues. Again, I had 15 years up to that point of concussion symptom problems that I hadn't really resolved. And so that was kind of my real day one of my new awakening to kind of figure out what was wrong with me. And from that point on, I've kind of made it my mission to solve some of these symptoms for the best to the best that I can.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can tell I'm 6'3", you're 6'6", so you're definitely going to be a target, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty savage. I thought we were savage over here in England, but that's you Canadians, you're hardcore. Yeah, so you learnt a lot, like I did, and like everybody else watching this. You learnt a lot from those experiences, and yeah, that coming round and waking up and like The first time, you don't really know what's going on, do you? But then the second or third time, you're like, how am I going to come around? How am I going to feel later on? And I
Right.
think that's the thing with PCS, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the symptoms are ever evolving, but the thing is, if you've had multiple concussions, you've probably had most, if not all, the potential concussion symptoms. I think I've had five or six different types of concussions. So I've been able to kind of feel the different ways symptoms can manifest. And so I've learned ways I wouldn't say cope. Cope is not the word I like to use because I like to eventually resolve, but cope initially and then work to kind of resolve the underlying problems. And I think the biggest problem that people face when I talk to them about concussions is that your body's in disarray. It doesn't affect one of the systems in your body. It affects multiple systems, right? It throws off your vestibular. It throws off your metabolic. It throws off your autonomic nervous system. And so you have to wrangle and tackle those issues. If you just try to focus on one, those other ones throw everything out of whack. So it's a holistic body approach. You're trying to tackle all those things. And for me, my biggest thing was at the time, I didn't have the resources, time, or money to devote to going to a specialist 3, 4 hours a week. So a lot of it was done on my own time and my own watch. So it was a lot of homegrown that I've therefore kind of looked online and found scientific literature and tried to kind of incorporate all these things to try to make the most robust concepts and protocols that I possibly can. But you're right, it is you go through that drudge of the recovery and you kind of learn a lot about yourself, I found. You learn the concept of resilience and you learn that you can overcome these things. I mean, the beautiful thing about the body is if you give it the right inputs in the right time, it can heal, right? And I've seen people who've had traumatic brain injuries that have done the right things and put in the right time and they are better for it as a result. It's crazy to think, but they've told me a lot of them that they feel better now than they did prior. And it's because they've addressed underlying issues that were probably dormant that they surfaced after the concussion. So again, it is a long, arduous battle, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So just keep that in mind whenever you feel like you're nothing going on that day. Just think one more day, you can make it through that day because there is light there.
Yeah, and you brought some important points there as well, because you're just taking me back to that time, like 2006, 7, 8, 9, when, yeah, I'd had like a few mild traumatic brain injuries, and it was literally, I was similar to yourself. At that point, what happened to me, and I've said this through the podcast before, is like I was in a job and I couldn't maintain the job, and then they kicked me out of my job on my birthday, and it was like I had to sell my house, and it was like then I ended up like living elsewhere, and it was like, and I didn't have any money for treatments and so on. Here in England, I had to go through the what they call the National Health Service here, which is basically like a we call it the no help service or the no hope service because they don't do anything apart from give you drugs.
Right.
So they gave me all the drugs and stuff, and I was like, this can't be the way to recover. Oh, like after a year or two, I was like, no, I'm going to find my own way. So, like
Yeah.
you, I didn't have the money for a chiropractor back then to sort my back and my neck out. I didn't have the money for therapy, anything else like that. So, that resourcefulness you've talked about within yourself, I do identify with that. And now talking about it all these years later, that's, I think, the most powerful and empowering thing that anybody with PCS can do. Now, I was on my own through that time. I didn't have a partner or wife or anybody, anything else like that. It's obviously it's different for everybody. So how did you cope through that time? What did you have people to support you? Um,
Yeah, I have a great support network. Again, married with 3 kids now. I could tell you that my kids are a great support network now, but when they were 2, 5, and 8, not so great because
oh,
you go from an environment. I was
you
teaching.
helped up, didn't you?
They
Hopefully.
just don't stop talking. That's the problem. Um, I went from an environment of teaching physical education, as you know, the noise and the chaos and lights everywhere, right? So it was a very stressful situation, and you come home and it's kind of that same vibe. So for me, my biggest support, this just kind of sounds odd to think, but for me, it was my alone time. I've kind of created a sense of morning routine where I like to get up really early before anyone else is awake because I know I have those 2 hours in the morning guaranteed to myself. And without those, I don't know that I'm nearly coping the way that I have because
No, that's
I know
wise.
that what's that, sorry?
You're a wise man.
Yeah. Some people call me crazy, but I'll take that. Again, if I don't set my day up correct, like if I still have those autonomic nervous regulation problems. I know that for me, I feel like it's almost like someone who's operating normally, it's like they're driving an automatic car where it's going to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic stress rest state automatically. For me, I'm driving a standard and I have to manually shift that gear hard and it's grinding sometimes. So if I get up in the morning and set my body right, if I do some breath work, meditation, gratitude journaling, and I set a baseline for the day, I know that the stresses that come later on are going to be easier to tolerate. Whereas if I just get up, hop out of bed, and my kids want breakfast, there's this going on, the dog just pooped on the floor, what's going on? It's chaos. Then I'm in trouble, right? So I gotta tackle the day before the day happens.
You're blessed, man. You're absolutely blessed, in my opinion. I mean, it's like, yeah, all of that action going on in the background is just there to remind you how, as a man, you've got to work on yourself and do that as well. It's that's good. I think another thing as well is how you've coped. Having that support is really important. Now, like I said, I didn't have that support and I kind of like had to wing it on my own, but that's my story. Won't go into that. So now, you're looking, aren't you, to try to bring this to other people and you're looking to put feelers out and put yourself forwards, which
Right.
is a really brave thing to do. And, admiration for that is you're going to give your time to other people and just say, well, look, let's have a conversation about this. And I love the fact that you said you've reached out to about 50 different people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we all work in different ways, don't we? I work in the way where I'm a bit more responsive, but I am proactive sometimes, and in trying to do the podcast and to have people on to talk about the stories like yourself. But you've got seem to have already a decent network around you.
Yeah, you know what? I've been super blessed to be able to connect with a ton of good people, specifically on Facebook. And the best part is that so many people are willing to share their stories. And again, there's so many differences, but yet so many similarities in what I hear. And
Mm.
the best part about this is just the human connection, getting to talk to people, getting to hear kind of their pain points. And that's what my whole goal here is to kind of see what are people's biggest pain points? What are they struggling with the most? What's their real motivation for getting to the point where they want to get to? And again, curing yourself and getting 100% better maybe isn't feasible on every front. I believe that the brain is malleable, and I think everyone can get to can be cured in some capacity. But the biggest point I think is that people want to be heard. They want to feel like there's a way out. And again, I'm always going to say
Mm.
if you put in the right inputs, the body will heal, right? And now here's the problem is that the environment that we live in, and there's so many conflicting inputs. And again, you're living in a highly polluted, highly toxic, you're eating food that's been highly processed. There's so many different variables that your body's trying to cope with. And that's on top of being dysregulated, right? So if you have like me, I have a dysregulated, I have dysautonomia, and my ANS, my autonomic nervous system, was highly dysregulated. So then you add in mold in the environment, you add in artificial lights in my school, you add in noise, you add in all those elements, and your body is going to not going to be able to tolerate it, right? So for
No.
me, it was I wanted to come up with a list of or a kind of a I guess a collection of things that people could do on their own, like a lifestyle modification. Again, we can't live in a bubble, but you can be a change agent in your own life. And there are ways to do that, in ways that are low cost in some ways, that you can change on an everyday scale. It's just a matter of, starting small and building up, so that you can build that habit, right?
Yeah, and like you just said, each of us have to find our own pathway to do that. But sometimes within this wider community, because we try to make things with people all over the world, different countries, uh, some of us have to tread a path before others can see the way to follow. Now, I tended to do that for mine through like I said, I couldn't take the doctor's drugs and things like that. And then I decided to go the natural route and to use other things to help me to recover from subsequent concussions that I had. And I devised a fairly good method to do that. But I realized that that would not work for everybody. There had to be different elements such as physical therapy, counseling therapy, all kinds of different things. There had to be like a whole different load of things that a person would need to do, and then to see which ones suited them the best.
Mm.
Um, I think I found my way, and through the diet, and I have fibromyalgia as well, and other issues too. So I'm dealing with it two, three different things at once, like a couple of double whammies.
Right.
So I would deal with like diet and fasting. I'd learned to fast over 20 years ago, and how to regulate my body. But still, like you said, the autonomic stuff and the nervous system is probably, in my opinion, one of the hardest things to reign over. And you've obviously clearly got a better background in doing that than I have. So
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think people don't understand the true power of the system of your nervous system and kind of how it can kind of play a role in everything. For me, it manifests for me in my stomach. I have poor digestion of food. I get really bloated. I feel sick. I get headaches. I feel uneasy. But again, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I got a gut problem. Something wrong with my head if I have that brain fog, that unease, that cognition issues." But a lot of times it comes down to you are in such a stress state. You're constantly in an overly sympathetic state, and so your body is basically feels like it's fight or flight. So
yeah,
it's exactly it's gonna limit the blood flow to certain parts of your body, like your gut, when you feel like you're in need to run. It's going to send blood to the extremities, right? It's not going to send blood to the brain or the gut because in that moment you need to run, you need to fight. And
yeah.
so when your body is in that state all the time, guess what? You're not digesting food. And therefore, if you're not digesting food, you're not getting the nutrients from the minerals. And subsequently, you're going to have other problems that come downstream from that.
No, yeah. Too much cortisol, too much
Yeah.
adrenaline, and noradrenaline is literally going to make your immune system go down to the floor. Now, a funny thing happened to me. Well, it wasn't funny at the time. It's still not funny. But when my dad passed, literally a couple of years ago, I got sick literally within a month or two afterwards, like bowel disease, what called diverticular disease of the bowel, which is where you get pockets and things in your bowel that come out. So I was like, I got sent to hospital one day because I thought I had appendicitis, but it turned out that the scans and the camera, the
Right. Nice. Great.
yeah, I know it was nice, it was lovely. Um, and he was like, "Yeah, this is what you need to do." So I was like, "How the hell do I heal this?" I dealt with PCS, I dealt with fibromyalgia, and then I was like, so I then went back to my knowledge of, like you just said, fight or flight.
Mm.
Cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline versus immune system and the bacteria in your gut. Obviously, your tonsils, your stomach acid, and your gut are the three lines of defense in your immune system. If, if those are breached, then you're done. So I was like, how do I then recover from this? How do I regulate my system? And I came across something called TUDCA, which is basically bile salts that your liver, your bile duct make. And I think it was Dr. Berg or somebody on YouTube was like watching this video one day and was like, hang on, that bile salt to help digestion and so on, that I'll try that. And I tried it. And from being bloated and sick and nauseous every morning for about a year, I tried that. And just a simple thing like reintroducing extra bile salts into the body to aid digestion, just put it right. I
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, well, it can be really simple sometimes, but other times, like you said, you can go round and round in looking for answers and things as well. So yes, I think sometimes it's the same with PCS. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, and just kind of heading back to the digestion stuff. And again, if you go see a doctor, which most people do, they're going to give you a proton pump inhibitor. They're going to give you something to block your stomach acid. When in fact, a lot of times it's not a high stomach acid. It's going to be a low stomach acid. And what I've found, the craziest thing I've found is that I have a lot of control over how I digest food. So if I go into a meal rushed, if I go get some food, I'm eating it on the run, I'm going to feel bloated. I'm going to feel terrible. So it's of my opinion, if I'm rushed, I just don't eat. I'd rather not eat and not feel bloated and wait till I'm rest and relax later to eat than try to force food down my throat because I know for me at least, that's going to cause more stress to the system. Okay, so I found a few things that are non-negotiable when I'm eating. First off, I'm not a religious person, and again, to each their own, but I always say thanks to the food before I eat it. And this is strange, but hear me out. So, when you are in a state of gratitude, you cannot be in a state of anger at the same time. You cannot be in a state of um, kind of malcontent or anything like that. When you're in gratitude, when you're showing gratitude for something, you are in a state of kind of joy and peace, and it's bringing your sympathetic state into the equation here. So I'm thankful before I eat. So I'll just in my mind I'll say, I'm grateful for the food, the nutrients that are going to go into my body. That's step one. Step two is I always take at least two or three deep breaths. Again, relax my system. Make sure I know I'm telling my body I'm ready to eat. Okay, whatever I was doing before, hanging out with kids, scolding, students in the hallway, whatever it was, that's then, this is now, I'm eating. The third thing that I found is really cool is that I found quite a few studies that talk about how eating in social situations actually increase your parasympathetic tone. So if you're eating with family, if you're eating with friends, I'm not talking putting the show Friends on TV, but if you're eating with physical friends in the room, there is an increase in your parasympathetic tone. Therefore, your body's going to be prepared to eat that food, digest that food, right?
Yeah.
Chew a lot. The more you chew, the more digestive enzymes you're producing, the easier it is for your body to digest. So these are all things that people would have done prior to TVs, prior to working, excessive amounts of hours at work. So it's just going back to what worked before. And a lot of the stuff I do, it's not crazy, it's not biohacky. It's a lot of stuff that's been around for a long time that we've just forgotten. That we've just in our modern society, we've just forgotten to just stop, slow down, be grateful for what you're eating, and just enjoy the company around you.
Yeah, and that will resonate with a lot of people that watch this podcast and listen to this podcast, I guarantee you, because we always go down rabbit holes. I'm not the rabbit hole master with different subjects, and it's fine if we do that because people still love to listen and watch as well. So yeah, it's literally like you were saying. Um, Blessings on food. I've practiced Reiki for over 25 years. I teach and students, and it's the same thing. We always say, like before a meal, just kind of like give thanks and give gratitude for the food that you're going to have. Make it the right food, though.
That's a
Don't,
very good
don't
point.
put stuff in your face with carbs and sweets and stuff like that. I only, for the last, I think my son Arlo is nearly 11 now, but since he was 2 years, 2 years old, I've only eaten one meal a day, the, Warriors diet or Mad
Yep,
diet. So I do that and sometimes I fast, but that works for me with fibromyalgia and everything else. I can't eat breakfast. I can't eat lunch. It,
right.
it will knock me out for like hours on end. I can't, I'm just like, it's better for me just to have one meal a day in the evening about 6, 7 o'clock, and that's it. And I'm grateful for that. So why I'm saying this for the viewers at home as well is because we've all got different habits. We train to have 3 meals a day, aren't we? In our
Hmm.
upbringing, we train eat your breakfast, eat your lunch, eat your dinner, eat your 3 meals, 3 square meals a day. It's literally imprinted through our consciousness. But there are other ways to do things. And like I say, I will fast sometimes for 7, 14, even as much as 21 days. But I'll only do that 3 or 4 times a year. It's spiritual practices like doing that
Right.
and you rid your body of parasites and stuff as well. But it all connects back to, like you said before, David, was about when you have a brain injury, when you have a concussion and so on, it brings up a whole lot of other stuff that you've not dealt with, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think everything that was dormant now comes to the surface. So I've talked to a lot of people who had anxiety before, they had depression before. And again, it was then after that concussion that everything starts to rise. You feel the anxiety rise, the depression rise. And the problem lies is that because they had a previous diagnosis, they go back to their doctor and the doctor said, well, let's just ramp up the medication, which is terrible. Yeah, exactly. A little more pills and all will be good. And I'm not anti medical system and healthcare system. What I
Oh,
am is I'm anti that being your first avenue, right? If you've tried everything else and you need that medication in that moment to cope so that you can eventually work on what are the drivers of these symptoms, that's fine, right? Nothing wrong with that. But if this is your lifelong mission is to stay on whatever that medication is for the rest of your life, then I don't feel like that's a life worth living for me at least. Because
No.
I don't want to be dealing with the side effects. We don't know what some of the side effects from these medications are long term. And second of all, again, you're not addressing the problem.
Yeah, well, I do, unfortunately, because I was left on opioid painkillers like dihydrocodeine, codeine for 10 years, and it damaged my kidney function. I ended up with histamine intolerance because of that, and nobody told me. They just left me on it. So now I have permanent histamine intolerance because when your kidneys, the thing with opioid painkillers is like morphine, codeine, and so on, they don't tell you that it reduces or dissipates your kidney's ability to create a diamine oxidase, which is what regulates your mast cell and your histamine, your immune system. So like, I said this, and I've gone back to the doctors and like, I've got this histamine thoughts and like, oh, we don't want to know. None of our business. And like, you're on
Yeah,
your own.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, what? So yeah, you can get stuck in some traps with the medical systems, no matter where you are in the world. So yeah, a very good point to make. And I think as well, dietary and nutritional value and knowing that is really, really important when you're recovering from a brain injury or any other type of chronic illness. So what what do you think about nutrition? And also, I want to add a little bonus question on there. What do you think about people who self-medicate uh, when they've had brain injuries as well? Like myself, hands on heart, I did that back in the day with alcohol and different stuff and
right,
other drugs. And I did self-medicate because I went to the doctors. I know this is a loaded question, so you can split it down as
right.
much as you want. I self-medicated and I'll admit to that because they weren't helping me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk nutrition first. So for me, again, it's pretty simple. I've read a lot by Michael Pollan, and I think he's got a very simplistic approach to nutrition. I'm not pro-vegan, anti-vegan, pro-carnivore, anti-carnivore. What I am is I want you to eat real food when you can. So what I will say is eat whole foods most of the time. It's pretty simple. I mean, I slip up, everyone's going to slip up, but most of the time you should be eating something with one ingredient or no more than three ingredients on the label. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it, right? If you can't see it grown in the field over there, it's not meant to go in your body. So, for me, it's pretty simple. I eat fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, and meat. That's basically the extent of my diet. And again, that's personalized for me. I don't tolerate carbohydrates very well unless they're fibrous. And again, this comes down to this whole autonomic nervous system dysregulation. So I find that I get um, I get dizzy, I get lightheaded when I eat a lot of low or high glycemic carbs, and so I basically just abstain. But I think for most people, it's a really, again, this is such a polarized topic. But again, it doesn't matter where are on the spectrum. I think most people would align with the concept that just get rid of processed foods if you can. And again, some people might say this is all we have available to us in this place. Well, that's fine. Do the best you can. Whatever it is, do the best you can. Don't drink your calories, right? Eat when you're hungry, not when you think society tells you you should eat. Again, if you're not hungry at breakfast, it doesn't mean you need to eat breakfast. You don't have to have snacks. Snacks are a contrived um, societal concept. So when I don't know which company, I can't remember which one it was, but snacks were never a thing back in the day. And so they're now kind of come into our lexicon where people think you need to snack. It's like, oh, I'm going to get low blood sugar if I don't snack every
Yeah.
35 minutes. Yeah.
Was it Kellogg's that started
I
that?
was going to say it might have been. And again, it's that whole
Yeah.
humorous angle where they've pushed that to now everyone thinks, oh, it's snack time. At school, we have snack break. And you don't need a snack if you have a big full breakfast, or you're able to tolerate and use fat as a source of fuel in your body because you've basically gone off high glycemic carbs. So again, it's a kind of a long-winded answer, but for me, for nutrition,
No,
keep it simple, right? So eat whole foods, stay out of the center of the grocery store, stay on the outside. That's what I try to do, right? Those canned goods are okay, but if they start getting packages and they're all crinkly when you touch them, it's probably not a good thing. Um, but for me, I think one of the most under talked about concepts of nutrition is water and hydration. I was reading something before about 75% of adults are chronically dehydrated, and that's astonishing because people wonder why they get up fatigued, they get headaches, and they feel groggy. It's again, you see people carrying around these big Stanleys. I don't think they drink them at all, though. So you
Just
have to. It's a coping mechanism. It's an emotional band-aid. I don't know what it is, but it's just to kind of walk around with these things. But for me, I put a little bit of salt and a little bit of lemon juice as electrolytes. You can put electrolyte powders, but if you consume a lot of water and you don't replenish your electrolytes, you're actually just flushing all those electrolytes out. So for me,
yeah.
eat whole foods, drink water, make sure you have some kind of electrolytes during the day, and that's going to cover most of what you need to do.
Yes, and a big shout out to my friend Louise Stevens who gave me some Buy Her Gold salt
There
the other
we go. That's good
day.
stuff.
Because
Yeah,
I've been taking electrolyte tablets and Celtic sea salt, but then yeah, lovely Louise has just give me some of that. So I'm like, yeah. So yeah, a pinch of that is like 84, 91 different minerals and so on,
trace minerals. Yeah,
just to
good
help
stuff.
the body to re-assimilate with hydration. Now, hydration, obviously, like I said to you before, I've been water fasting for 20 years, so I understand the quality of water.
Yes,
So,
yes,
filtered water or bottled water or so on. And I have a water distiller and so on as well. So I know that I can get my water to, that it's got 0 parts per million of pollution in it, and then add whatever electrolytes or whatever I need into that. And I think this is something that, yeah, a lot of people don't really know a lot about,
yeah.
but it can be really crucial, can't it, in helping not only the body to heal after a type of physical accident like the ones we've talked about, but also from a brain injury too.
Yeah. Well, I think again, after concussion, I don't know the length of time offhand, but I know your blood-brain barrier, the permeability increases thereafter, right? So if you think all those toxins in the water and the food before they were potentially going to go in your brain, now that permeability is increased, now all those toxins are going into your brain, which is already have inflammation. So that's why I think that people who are struggling with TBIs, it's incredibly important to have that filtered water. In Edmonton here, I don't know why it drives me crazy, but we put fluoride in our water, and I know Canada, I know we put fluoride in the water, and we dentists still do fluoride on teeth, and it's crazy. And even though there's neurodegenerative signs that this is actually causing you more harm than good, right? So again, it's crazy. So the fact that you're drinking all these, and they found birth control in the water, they found a whole bunch of parts per billion, but yes, they found that stuff in the water because it doesn't filtrate out with the city's filtration system. So have your own filtration system, right? Get spring water if you can. But again, what we're drinking is not meant for humans to consume. And again, it's not like it's that moment is going to cause you a problem, but years upon years upon years accumulation of these toxic chemicals that don't leave your body very easily will cause problems for sure.
And for anybody at home that's watching this and thinking, oh, fluoride's fine because your dentist tells you to put in your toothpaste and all this other stuff. Right, a little physics lesson for you, boys and girls, because I worked as a metallurgist most of my life. Fluoride is a byproduct of aluminium smelting. Now,
Mm.
aluminium is not something that you want in your body, actually, through your system and so on as well. So
Right.
fluoride is something that basically they've got tons left over that they can't get rid of. They used to put it in atom bombs and stuff and to make bombs and things. So it's not necessarily the best thing to be drinking. If you're drinking tap water, you might want to have a little, reassessment of that because I don't think fluoride is really maybe the best. But luckily we don't have it here in England yet, although they're kind of trying to push it on us because they've got all this fluoride. They must have like fluoride mountains somewhere in a warehouse where they're just like, we need to get rid of this. What can we do with it? But thank you for making that point. That's a really good point, David. So as well as electrolytes and for me it's supplemental as well. I will try to use things that benefit me so that I can live a better life given what I'm dealing with. And in terms of diet, you mentioned vegan diet, uh,
Right.
carnivore diet. Now, I was vegetarian for 16 years back in the day. And then when fibromyalgia hit and everything else, I turned around about 2009, 10, and I went back to eating meat and fish again, pescatarian for a while, went vegetarian back again for a while, and then went back to eating meat again. For the last month or two, I've done a carnivore diet, and I've lost a lot of weight, and muscle mass is getting better, and I feel healthier and better. But I'm not going to do that forever. Like
Hmm.
a friend and mentor of ours used to say, Stuart Wilde used to say, if you're a vegan, every now and then you should go out and get a big Burger King, a big burger once every 2, 3 months and just eat that or a steak or something, and then go back to veganism and vice versa.
Right.
So I think it's a case of we don't, like you said, we don't have to be too militant about it or anything, but just do what's best for your own body and so on as well. Look after yourself. Right. So I'm going to lead you back to the second part of that question. You
Yeah, yeah.
might have forgotten, which is, have you had any experience or do you know anybody who's having experience of self-medicating? And I'm talking about obviously drink and drugs and things that are not from the doctor here.
Mhm. You know what? I haven't personally, and I have talked to people who have gone down that road. And again, it feels like there comes a point for those who've been on the PCS journey for a while where you're in that valley and the sun isn't coming up. You can't see past the mountains. There's nothing out there. So I am never the one to kind of disparage someone for going down that road again. They might have had an addiction problem prior, and this, like we talked about, is just going to exacerbate that problem. So again, the hardest thing that you can do, though, again, for someone who has those addictive tendencies, is I found for me, I'm going to kind of bring this back to myself, is that my tipping point, one of my tipping points, when I decided that I needed to really figure out what was wrong with me was. Um, After my third or fourth concussion, I had started to get these anger problems. And again, I think it was dealing with stress in my body that I couldn't regulate. And my kids would always want me sitting by their beds, waiting for them to fall asleep. So sometimes it would take 10 minutes, sometimes it would take hours, right? And so this was one of those days where your stress was built up and you're sitting down there, you're kind of, you know, thinking about things, but you really have nothing to do. And I was just getting frustrated. And again, I wasn't myself. This was an anger problem that was kind of manifesting. And my daughter didn't want to go to sleep. And there was a stool beside me where I had a glass of water. It was a big wood stool. And I just got up and decided I was going to punch that stool. Reasons I'm not quite sure still. And I broke my hand. And that was one of those things where I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't," and then, a day later, I'm like, that wasn't what I would normally think I would do. I was kind of having an out of body experience. My stress level was so high. I kind of draw the parallel with people who kind of succumb to use whether it's drugs or alcohol as a vice, because again, your body is acting in a way that it doesn't feel like it's you. It's like almost for me, it felt like an out of body experience where I was acting in a way that wasn't kind of conducive to what I normally would want to do because I was in this stress state. I couldn't get out of it. There was no hope in sight. And so it was just like you just give in to things. I gave in to my anger. So people might give in to just
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
drinking a bit more, right?
I know.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't feel there's an end in sight. That's the hardest thing, is when you don't feel like there is. But I'll tell you this unequivocally, and I'll kind of retrace my steps. I'd said that most people should heal from a brain injury. I've heard of crazy stories of people who've had parts of their brain removed and they've basically gone on to live functional, normal lives. I think everyone, given the right inputs, given time, given the right treatments, can heal. And
Yes.
again, the hardest part, though, is that initial climbing back up the mountain. Right? You're in that valley, climbing back up, taking those first few steps. And part of my goal with my program is creating systematic steps or basic baby steps that you can build up off of, right? I went and I've gone through so many different concussion courses. And the thing that I found was the hardest thing for me and for other people I've talked to is that they'll tell you, oh, you have to do gratitude journaling, you have to meditate for 20 minutes, you have to do all these things that, again, I go from 0 to 100. I'm not going to maintain that for more than a day. Meet people where they are. Okay. I needed to meet myself where I was. I was frustration. I was punching, like I said, stools because my children wouldn't go to bed. I needed to meet myself where I was. I started with 5 minutes of meditation. I started writing one thing down as a form of gratitude. I put it on a sticky, and that was my one form of gratitude for the day. That's it. I was grateful for one thing. And again, it's a step that you have to make. It's not, you're not climbing, you're not jumping to the peak of the mountain. You're stepping on the summit, you're stepping on the base so that you can get to the summit at some point.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, because like all our journeys are just totally different,
Yeah.
totally unique. Anytime
Right.
it used to say to me, "Oh, you're a bit weird after your brain injury," yeah, oh yeah, and then I eventually turned that round 180 degrees to say, "Yeah, no, I'm unique after my brain injury."
Yeah.
But is that way as well? Yeah, I still got angry as well. God, my mama got angry after I lost, got kicked out of my job and like lost my house, and that was angry. I know where to live. I didn't know what to do. I was like, yeah, I'm fucking mad as hell. And I was like Howard Beale. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. But then there was nobody listening at that point. So yeah, I no appreciate you sharing that with us because that's I'll share something now as well, which is I say that like in 2006, 7 or whatever, I'd never take drugs before in my entire life. Never
Mhm.
been tested, never touched them, nothing else as well. So then it was like, well, after that, I'd had post-traumatic amnesia, anterograde amnesia, and the other one, I forget now. Um,
Wah, wah, wah.
anyway,
Chicken.
all
Yeah.
that's funny in itself. I can't remember. So I'd gone through like a few months of like, what the hell am I doing? And then started to realize, hang on a minute, there might be certain things I can use or do to try. So I tried a lot of different things. I'd never got stuck on any one thing. I was just looking for something to kill the pain and depression. So years later, I realized that's obviously probably the wrong thing to do, and I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. And I never went down that rabbit hole with it and got
Mhm.
addicted and I got badly into anything. But oh boy, did I get judged by people, did like, oh, and I was like, hang on a minute. I was, when I first point my first concussion, I was 32 years old. Never touched a drug in my life, never done anything like that. Been a good boy, not bothered, not drunk, nothing like that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. It's like, well, I wasn't I wasn't married at that point. I didn't have a family, no children or anything. I've been married earlier, but no children. But it's like I'm just want to try to explore these routes. And so I got all this judgment and backlash off family and other people, and I was like, ugh. And then it was like, yeah, this is probably not the best way to go. So if you are out there and you are trying those different routes, then please take caution and please be careful, because sometimes, yeah, it's not always the best thing. And like we said before, the doctor's route isn't always the best thing because I was given at one point, um, at one point, I'd be sent to like a psychiatrist for a couple of sessions. And
Mhm.
I've had a couple of brain injuries. I've had post concussion syndrome. He's like, oh, no, no, no. This must go back to your childhood. And he's trying to diagnose me with stuff. He put me on up to about, I think at one time it was like 11 or 12 medications,
Right.
including tranquilizers, antidepressants, and all this stuff. And I was like, this is just making me worse.
Yeah.
And when I realized that epiphany, which was about 2010, 11, I was like, hang on a minute, Dave, maybe you don't need any of this stuff.
Right.
And I started cutting it all out. I went cold turkey off the stuff and that. And it came around and was like, actually, I'm all right. And then I
Yeah.
realized what the system had done to me. So, legal or illegal, it doesn't necessarily get you where you need to go on your healing journey, I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah, anyway, sorry to ramble on.
Yeah. No, it's
Hmm.
yeah, it's a tough, it's a sticky wicket to kind of cross because again, like you said, there's so many variables at play. To have an invisible illness like PCS, like having someone with clinical depression or clinical anxiety, it's tough because people will always judge the outward appearance of you. Okay, if you have a broken arm, it's pretty obvious that your arm's broken. But when you have problems internally that people can't see, that was my biggest problem. Is you'd have to sometimes tell people, okay, you know what? I can't be in this room for more than 2 minutes. I have to go sit down, I have to go outside, I have to go take a break. It's not because of you, although you do annoy me sometimes. It is because of just I can't regulate for that long, right? So again, if you don't advocate for yourself, you're always going to look like the strange person who's got, ear protection on or wearing sunglasses inside. It's not you're weird. It's just that people don't see that as typical behavior, right? And again, so having to
Um,
advocate for yourself and because it is an invisible illness.
yeah, true. I've been trying to relate this to some people that I know recently, and the only thing I could liken it to was I don't know if you've ever seen the film The Prestige, where
No.
the two magicians know,
Yeah.
and they're just like competing against each other. It's
Right.
basically, as somebody with hidden disabilities and chronic illnesses and stuff as well. I mean, look, I don't look sick, do I? You don't look sick. I'm like all the time. I go, oh, Dave, you look really well. Oh, you look so good. You look really well, and I'm like. You should have seen me at 6 o'clock this morning, 7 o'clock this morning, 8 o'clock this morning, 9 o'clock this morning, 10 o'clock this morning, 11
Right.
o'clock, 12 o'clock. About two, three, no, actually today it took me till about half an hour before we started the podcast, where I finally started to feel like I was like, oh, I might be half human here. Hang on a minute. I could probably deal with this today. But they don't see that. I think essentially you don't want to let people see that side of you.
Mhm.
I know it's obviously probably more difficult if you've got a family and you've got children
Right.
living with you. That's like, but for
Yeah.
me, it's like, yeah, but you don't see me when I'm not well.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the caveat is you don't see me when I'm in a pit of pain or whatever in the morning. Because fibromyalgia came on for me when I was 6 years old, but it really curtailed in about 2001 when I had a flu vaccine, which brought it on, and then about 2009 when it came on full force, like unstoppable full force. So then I had PPCS and fibromyalgia, and that's where the self-medication came in, to be fair.
Right.
Mm.
100%. Yeah.
But essentially, today, a friend come and visit me today, said, "Oh, Dave, you look great." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Because you don't want to go there, do you?
No, I mean that's why we always respond. Yeah, we're doing good. Fine. How's the weather? We
I'm
we like
fine.
to live on the surface. We like, yeah, foaming out of the mouth. We like to live on the surface because we don't want to delve deep. And again, this was my biggest problem is because I didn't want to tell people that I wasn't feeling great. I didn't want to burden them. They don't need to know. I always felt like it was my problem, my issue. I'll deal with it. And that was part of what lengthened my healing journey. Is that I didn't want to seek out help. Okay, I internalized a lot of it. The other thing that I think, I don't know, you can kind of talk to this as well, is my biggest kind of point of catalysm was that I needed to decide that I could get well and I was going to get well. Um, I read somewhere that 95% of your thoughts from the subconscious are things that you used to think but you don't currently think. So again, things that you were from situations in childhood or things that happened in the past, you kind of have this endless loop of elevator music in your mind telling you what's happened. You are insignificant, you aren't loved, whatever those negative kind of thoughts that play in your mind all the time. I had to come up with a way to reroute those thoughts and try to change those thoughts. Again, I thought for the longest time that I was someone who had PCS and that was kind of part of my identity, and I had to kind of rid myself of that. So I think a lot of this stuff, I think the biggest thing that people kind of miss, unfortunately, is the psychological piece. Talking about psychology is mindset. Okay, do you think you can actually recover from this? And if you don't, that's where you need to start. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you all the evidence in the world. I can show you clinical cases. I can give you scientific evidence that shows that these things can evolve and change. But until you believe it, nothing we do, nothing you do in your life, no treatment from a specialist is going to have any impact because your body's going to resist it. Your body's going to always have an excuse why it's not going to work. And again, I'm not trying to begrudge or hurt anyone's feelings because I was at that point too. I was like, this is who I am. I am going to live in a dark shell. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to be grumpy. I'm going to be a terrible father and husband until I realized that that didn't have to be, right? That loop in my brain could be changed. But again, it's that mindset, that belief that needs to be there. Until you believe, nothing is, to me, your possibilities are limited by that ceiling. It's like a governor on a car. It's only going to let you go so fast until you get rid of it. Okay, now sky's the limit.
Yeah, and you're right. Essentially, consciousness and how we think about ourselves shapes our entire reality. And I've been into metaphysics for a lot of years, since I was about 16, 17 years old, and done all that. But he's essentially, yeah, how I got out of the pit as well, which was at one point was a bad pit of despair. Was like, right, you're either going to find a way to heal yourself from this and find a way out of it. And at that time, I had my beautiful dad still with me, who would, help me as much as he could. Um, but without the help from the system, because for me here in England, the system didn't help me at all. It just worked against me. And I know I come from living like Bradford, which is a poor city. It's one of the poorest cities in England. So the health system is rubbish. It's absolute garbage.
Right.
But other people that I've connected to them groups and so on, live in more affluent areas and decent cities, they would get all the help and everything they needed just offered to them automatically. Whereas I was
Right.
like, I want this, I would like this. And they were like, nah, you're not getting that. So there was a point where that bell rang in my head and it was like, hang on a minute, they're
Yeah.
not going to give you what you need. You have to go out and find a way to get it for yourself. And this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the only reason I'm sat here talking to David today. Because if, and here in the parallel universe, if they'd have given me everything I needed back in September 2006 and let me see a not psychotherapist, a neurologist and all that stuff that I never did for 9 years, I wouldn't be sat here having this conversation. I wouldn't be here. I would have been on a different path. But they didn't let me do that. And I'm here. And here we go. So this parallel universe is better than the one where I got everything I thought I wanted in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, it was a more difficult path. And if anybody's ever watched Fringe, you'll know. You'll understand it's like it's not always the easiest path to healing. It's often the more difficult one as well. So yeah, what David said was literally the same. Is like you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna make a point too. I feel today, and again, this is my opinion. I feel like I'm in a better headspace today than I was prior to my first concussion, because I think I had issues of lack of confidence, self-doubt,
Yeah.
feelings of love and insignificance. I had those issues that were festering that just again, like I talked about, they started to become more rampant after the concussions until I started to address those. And again, I did a lot of self-visualization and mental cues to try to fix those subconscious loops in my brain. But until I fixed those, they were always going to be playing. They're always going to be the
Yeah.
limiter of how far I can go, what I can do in my life. Now I feel like sky's the limit. I feel like I'm a better person, better husband, better father, because I feel like I truly respect the time of others. Whereas that first concussion I had, I didn't want to tell anyone because again, I didn't want to. I don't. People got stuff on their own. Everyone's busy. Why am I going to, impose my problems upon them? But now I know that the community can heal more than the individual can. And so again, your self-worth and your ability to kind of create that positive psychology is huge in your personal recovery as well as your lifetime recovery or your lifetime kind of progressions.
Yeah, and as you say, it's like our ability to hide what people can't see is seemingly endless. So at
Mhm.
times, it's at times it's like how often down the years, especially the early years, where I had to hide stuff and to tell people, oh yeah, I've had a brain injury, I've had this, that, and the other, and they're like, nah, there's nothing wrong with you. And
Yeah.
many times I'll be gaslighted, accused of oh, you're making it up.
Yeah.
You're a bad person and you're making this up as some kind of story or something, which is like, you're just making excuses for your behavior and that. And I was like, okay, I probably won't deal with you again. And then I had to relearn. I think sometimes for me, it felt like a second childhood or second adulthood where I had to go through learning boundaries and things again with people. Because if I was going to be hanging out with people like that, that are just like, well, there's nothing wrong with you, just get on with it, stop being a dick or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you probably don't understand me, so let's not talk again. So anyway, yeah, healthy boundaries, kids. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's the company that you keep will help with your recovery, that's for sure, right? So that's the good thing about
Um,
some of these Facebook groups and public groups that you can connect with people who are they can empathize with you. They're not going to yell at you and tell you you're a fraud. They're going to tell you like I mean these feelings are perfectly fine. This is part of the recovery. And again, the one thing I would say is that some people tend to dwell on the negatives too much and they're going to constantly say, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that.
yeah.
You are at some point you got to dig in, right? This is the part at some point you got to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I want to be 1% better tomorrow, 1% better the next day. And again, it is a tough road. I can tell you this again. I've climbed it. I've had PCS on a number of occasions, and it is tough and it sucks. And there's days that you don't want to get out of bed, but always think, okay, just try one more day. I just want you to give one more effort. Don't think about a week from now. Don't think about a month from now. Don't think about the end goal. Think about right now. Okay, what are you gonna do today so that you can feel a little bit better tomorrow, and then build on that. It's all about progressive, compounding wins, and again, those little things make a big difference in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just reminded me of a conversation I had on Saturday. We had a walk and talk from a friend's charity, and there's a chap there, he's a lovely chap, and I was just saying to him, he suffered with depression and other stuff. I said, "Do you know about the white flag technique?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you need to have in your house somewhere, whether it's physical or metaphysical, a white flag." So some days you know that you're just not going to get off the mark, are you? You might try and get out of bed and do stuff and that, and then you need to have like a psychic or metaphysical or a physical white flag that some days you can be kind to yourself and just wave that
Hmm.
white flag and go, just for today, I
Yeah.
will not be able to participate in anything that I really wanted to do or to fill the commitments that I might have committed to or do whatever. And so don't feel bad about waving that white flag. So that I think does translate over to PCS a lot as well, because back in the day I was like, people used to just think, oh yeah, Dave's flaky. He's not gonna. He said he's gonna come see us on Saturday, whatever. This, that, the other. And it was like, I just can't do it. So
Yeah.
you have to appreciate that, and it helps you to build those boundaries, I think, as well, when you're dealing with other people from a place of injury or depression or anxiety or all other things, because PCS is a syndrome of about 40 odd different symptoms, isn't it? So it's like you never know which one's going to come round like a carousel every day.
Yeah. And it's a really good point about like you got to choose your battles. And for me, it made me really kind of think about what do I want to spend my time doing? I have X amount of energy. I don't have endless energy anymore. So what am I going to spend my energy on? What's worth my time and my energy? And you're going to almost have an internal kind of hierarchy of what's worth it and what's not. And so being able to kind of, like you said, wave the white flag when you're like, this isn't for me. Today is not the day. That's fine. I couldn't do that at the beginning. I was like, oh, I'm just going to grind it out, right? Why not just grind it out? People need to see that I'm out there making a public space. But again, for you, until you can internalize that you are different than everyone else, and that's fine. And you can tell people that, guess what? Believe it or not, this is what I'm going through. And you can be okay with their how they talk to you, how they respond. That's fine. Because again, if they're not going to support you, that's not the person for you anyway, right? And that it's the easiest way to get rid of people in your life is like, they're not supporting me. Well, you're going to go on this side, right? So it's an easy way to kind of determine who actually cares about you, right? Who actually wants to see you grow, how they
Yeah.
respond to you when you're in times of turmoil, right?
Well, yeah, in the end, I guess what you'd call it over on that side of the Atlantic would be taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean that to sound disrespectful, but when you have to take the rubbish out, as we say over here, you have to go to anyway, yeah. So, but a lot of people aren't equipped to deal with what's going on in our lives, and that's just another boundary to keep as well. Yeah, like you said, it's simply you have to solidify as you go through, and you have to make these important choices. In the early days, on the Facebook groups and stuff, people didn't want to do that. They only wanted to talk about doctors' medications. They didn't want to talk about anything alternative or any therapies or anything. It was a really hard time for me and the other admins like Gina and Alice and all those because even back in then the early uh 20s, so like 2010,
Yeah.
2011 and so on, you couldn't even, because cannabis wasn't legal over there, so you couldn't talk about that. You were just shut down straight away. So everything we tried to talk about, alternative to doctors' medications, we were getting like people coming out. But eventually, as it opened up, we allowed the conversations to flow and just allowed it to go on. And now it's like, well, you can have what you want, can't you, over there? It's not the
Yeah.
same over here because we don't have the same medical system that you have. Ours is like socialist. We're dependent on the government. We pay for it in advance for our whole lives, but then we never get to access it. You pay for the insurance and stuff for something when something goes wrong, and then you can usually access it. So here
Right.
it's like we pay for it. We pay for it for our taxes. We have something called national insurance, which
Mhm.
isn't insurance, but that's you pay a lot of money every week, every month out of your wage. But then your employer has to pay the same or more as well towards your national insurance, and you pay your tax and stuff and your value added tax. But then when it comes to accessing the care, you can't get it because you're told, "Oh, we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses. There's not enough money. There's not enough money left." I'm like, what do I do? So at
Yeah.
that point, like you say, you go backwards and go, all right, I'll forget the system.
Yeah.
Um, it's like uh, buying a lemon, really. It's like making a bad purchase, but you don't get a choice. So here we're like, well, all right, we'll do what we need to do to get well. And we'll put it on our own shoulders. So anyway, sorry, digressing there. Um, is there anything else you'd like to say on in terms of like supplementation and things that have helped you, David, for your PCS, or is there anything that you've used particularly? So I know a lot of our members use CBD oil and different stuff or supplements.
So beyond that, the biggest one I think everyone, PCS or not, should be using is creatine. And again, there's more and more studies showing that its benefits for cognition beyond just muscle. So it's not just like back in the day of, the muscle beach effect, only the guys with the big muscles, using creatine. I honestly think everyone should be using it. And the
I've used it for
dosages,
years,
yeah.
yeah.
The dosages kind of vary based on your weight, but again, it's something that takes about a month for it to kind of to saturate into the system. But for me, it has been a game changer. I've had problems with fatigue and energy, and it helps with the ATP, which is going to increase your energy and your ability to have that proper cognition and reduce brain fog. Another big one is omega. I tend to eat fish not as much as I love, so having a clean omega-3 source especially for someone who's eating a lot of grains, which has a lot of omega-6. So you want to drop that down by consuming more omega-6 because the ratio is what really matters. So if you're eating a ton of omega-6, make sure you're consuming more omega-3 to compensate. And the last one, if we're just going to talk the big three, I think vitamin D is going to be huge because, again, I live in a climate where I don't see the sun half the year. So I can't say that it's just go outside and get some sunshine because if you've ever been to Canada, it is in the winter, it's cold and it's dark, right? You go outside, it's basically you're at nighttime all the time. So your body, yeah, exactly. Vitamin D is a hormone. It's a hormone, so it's going to impact your body in a different way than an actual typical vitamin will. But it does have, a huge impact on all the different systems of your body that you're trying to regulate. So the fourth one I would add though is magnesium, glycinate or threonate.
Fascinating,
Huge
yeah.
one as well for me. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you on those. Obviously, the fibromyalgia, NMN has been one that's been
Yeah.
good for me. Creatine, yeah, of course, because I still, given everything I'm dealing with, I still go walking and hiking and go to the gym when I can, and I can't do it all the time, but I do when I do. I go at it. So creatine is been one that's been really powerful for me. BCAAs sometimes as well.
Mhm.
Um, on top of a decent ketogenic diet too. When you talk about vitamin D, I'd have that every morning. I have it in a capsule of Novasol curcumin oil.
Mhm.
Just got the D3 in there, so I take two of those in the morning. With fibromyalgia, it helps to warm your body up and your muscles up before you kind of get out of bed. So I take it like wake up at 5 a.m. or whatever, take that, a drink of water, and then wait for it to work, and then so on. Um, yeah, and there's a few other ones, but like 5-HTP, if you have been on antidepressants like I was in the past, and none of them worked really, and it was like that. But then 5-HTP would be the one if you get a decent blend, which would be the one that helps to sustain your mood throughout the day. Ashwagandha and things like that. But yeah, I tend to agree with you on those ones. But magnesium, definitely glycinate for sleep.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the other one, sorry, that I found has helped with my ANS is choline. So it helps with neurotransmission. So again, if you have
oh,
trouble with regulating your sympathetic parasympathetic, I think choline would be a good one to go down. Um,
Mhm.
The other one I like, I drink a lot of green tea because I like the L-theanine, which has a calming agent to it. So again, when someone who's really sympathetic, who's stressed all the time, that L-theanine can help kind of calm your body down a little bit too. So yeah, L-theanine in green tea is super helpful for me.
Yeah, L-theanine. I can't drink green tea because of the histamines, but I do have L-theanine or GABA sometimes. Which is just as good at bedtime if you like. You find it hard to wind down. Ash, in the afternoon when you want to chill and just take the edge off the craziness of the day. What have you dealt with? But then sometimes at night, but like GABA with a bit of melatonin. But yeah, the L-theanine, all good. And so, yeah, I think that's about strategies with supplementation. Because it's drilled into us, isn't it? That like the doctor's meds are all fine and safe, and but these supplements are really dangerous, you know.
Yeah,
All this
yeah,
stuff that we can't patent under law
yeah,
to sell you is really dangerous. So it kind of gets to that point where people can get scared if they're so inclined to think, well, oh, I won't take that because the doctor said it could be dangerous for me. But there's not as many people dying every year from taking supplements as there are from iatrogenic
yeah.
drug
Yeah, exactly.
iatrogenic drug deaths are greater than deaths from handguns and shotguns and heart attacks and cancer and everything else. And but no, these supplements you're taking are dangerous, so be careful.
Well,
Anyways.
I was always told that creatine was like an anabolic. Like, what are you doing? You can't take that stuff. Guess what? You find it in meat, right? It's naturally occurring in food. So yeah, it's not.
I know it's crazy how like the whole subject of medical gaslighting has come on the last year or two as well, and I see more and more people talking about it, even within the medical profession. Doctors and people that are fully qualified and highly qualified are talking about medical gaslighting
Right.
and bringing it out into the daylight, which is really good. Um, I know it's something that a lot of people may not be familiar with, but it does happen. So yeah. Anyways. Put a cap on that. Right, okay. I think we're coming to up to about an hour and a half now, so most people might be like thinking, oh. Um, would you like to tell people, David, whereabouts they can find you on social media and so on? I'll put some links in the
For
video
sure.
description afterwards as well.
Yeah. So I predominantly hang out on Facebook, and I'll have a landing page in the notes there to kind of people can kind of access it. It'll have all my information if they want to come, and even if you want to contact me, or I'll also provide what I think is a optimal morning protocol or my morning protocol. I'll put a PDF in on the landing page that people can kind of go ahead and look at because I think it's for me at least setting your day up right is pivotal. And again, if I set up my day right, I know I kind of get those things out of the way that I know are my non-negotiables, that everything else that happens is happening and I'm able to adjust. So I'll put that in the landing page. And the biggest thing I'll leave people with is that you have the power and the agency to change your situation. Don't ever let a doctor tell you that only a pharmaceutical is going to help you. Um, the world has evolved in a way that I think you have to look out for yourself first and foremost. You have to look out for your own best interests. And my whole goal is to create a list of lifestyle modifications that you can implement. And I still implement them to this day, and I feel like I'm almost completely, if not completely, recovered because I know that they have great impact on my life. So things like stress reduction, autonomic nervous system regulation, diet, sleep. Um, all those things that can be part of your daily routine moving forward and it can help you recover. They don't have to replace specialist treatment. If you can get that stuff, great. It's an add-on, it's an adjunct. But again, if you can't bring that inflammation down in your body, no amount of chiropractic care is going to help adjust you, right? So you have to work on the inside out, in my opinion. And so these are just some tools that I found that build that proper functionality of the inside, your internals, so that you can figure everything else out.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, and yeah, I will put all the links, David, in the descriptions of the video. It'll be probably out tomorrow sometime. Uh,
Good.
yeah, and hang on after we close before I'll have a chat with you again before we go. Um, So yeah, we'd love to have you back on again anytime. Feel free to use this because, like I said to you in the pre-chat before, I've had so many emails off of like corporations and people, and like get these podcasting companies like, we want this doctor on and that, and it's like on your podcast, and then I email them back and they never reply, or it's like, or they ask you to send all the information and details on that. It's like, what are you doing? You know who you are out there.
I'm a human. I'm not a bot. I'm a human who likes to make changes. Yeah, I'm not a, yeah, exactly. So
I'm a
I am.
half I'm a half capable human being. So
Yeah.
I haven't got the time for this nonsense. Please stop
Right.
sending me emails and all that stuff. I just happy to find people like David and Brittany last time, and like people are just
Yeah.
like normal people just that getting through who've actually been through this, and I'm not really. I don't have a PA, I don't have a secretary, I don't have anybody like that. So
Right.
I don't have anybody to reply to all the emails and tell them to feck
Bugger
off.
off.
You
Yeah.
know, feck's not a dirty word in Ireland. But yeah, I just like a time for that. So, anyways, I'm kind of flattered, but not flattered. So anyway, but I want to give my gratitude to you, David. Thank you for being generous with your time. Yeah, we've gone over an hour and a half. I think it's probably long enough for most people to watch. But yeah, let's do this again sometime soon. And I look forward to following your journey and seeing where you go with this because I didn't really have much of an idea before today where you were heading at and what your actual experience and qualifications were. But now I can see that you're like me back in the day, you're dedicated to doing this. And Bismillah, it's brilliant. It's beautiful that you're doing that, and this is now it's like your calling in life. Like it was with me, I'll never stop doing this as long as
Mhm.
people come to talk to me.
Right. I'll be here anytime you want someone to
All
talk
right.
to. I'm
Awesome.
good.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen at home, thank you for watching and for listening, and we shall see you all again, hopefully soon, maybe in end of July or August with episode 61 and some more. But thank you for now, and we will see you later.